As I creaked, I woke him up, and he came running up the stairs, and I ran back into my room. I locked the door, and I called the police. And they're like, okay, we'll be there very soon. She says I should stay on the line with her until he gets there, until the police get there. So I can hear the police sirens coming as I. Hi everyone, welcome back to No Light Tarot. My name is Hallie. Thank you so much for watching. So I do these personal videos every week. I feel like it's a great chance for me to get to know you guys, for you to get to know me. I am so grateful for this channel, and yeah, I just feel like I can share some things with you to see if we can learn together. That's the whole point of this channel. So I'm going to be telling you today, and some of you have asked me to tell the story about a stalker. Well, I've had a few, but this one in particular is, it's a little triggering, obviously, even though I have been through healing, so forth, but I just had a memory of it recently, and I just wanted to share it all with you because you might find yourself in the same position. You might find yourself or a friend or family member in a similar position to me. I have had, like I said, I've had a lot of stalkers. I am not sure why some people have more stalkers than others, and I just felt inclined. I've been meaning to do it. I was supposed to do it 2 weeks ago, but I was moving, so I'm doing it now. And the reason I wanted to do this is because it's a very strange situation. So yeah, trigger warning. I don't usually like to give trigger warnings because I feel like I have my personal reasons why I don't usually give trigger warnings, but this definitely is. Okay, so I had been living in LA. Like I said, I had stalkers. I was born in New York. I grew up in South Africa, England. I moved back to New York when I was a teenager to start my tertiary education. I ended up staying in New York for quite some time. I thought I was going to live in New York forever, but after I was fed up with New York, I moved to LA. When I moved to LA, I had encountered a few odd people. I actually developed 3 full stalkers. Like, one of them I had to get a restraining order against, which is the story I'm about to tell you. And the other 2, I was a yoga teacher, so they were either told to stop coming to where I worked, or they were told to stop coming to where I work. So, one of them, I'm going to start from the beginning. So, I was walking home one night after having taken a yoga class, and I used to get up really early at 4 a.m. to go teach yoga at 6 a.m. because I had to do my routine. I used to like to meditate before. I meditate every day when I wake up, and I used to like to walk to work because I didn't live that far away. So I would wake up 4 a.m., meditate, wash, shower, then take my walk and go teach. So I was walking home the night before I was supposed to teach. It was a Monday night, sometime around the summertime. I didn't lose my documents. They are packed away. I kept them far away because I don't really like to think about it, but I feel inclined to tell this story because I think it's very important. So I was walking home, and there was a gate to get into this townhouse that I used to live in. So I saw this guy sitting by the gate. He seemed like he wasn't sober. I'm not sure what he was on, but he was sitting right by the gate. And as I entered, I don't fully remember what he said to me, but he said something along the lines of, "I'm in love with you, I've been following you." And I was like, this seems very odd. He's probably just really, really high or drunk or something. So I closed the gate behind me, and basically there were 3 houses connected to each other that made these townhouses, and I lived in the first one, and the kitchen was in the last one. Well, the kitchen after certain hours. So I went to the kitchen, and as I went to the kitchen, he was following me because he could see me through the gate. He called me his queen, and I was like, I told him I would appreciate it. Thank you, I'm flattered, but appreciate it if you'd stop following me. Like, I don't have time for this. He said, okay. Then when I came back out, I was going back to the first house, he was still there. So I went to bed, and I was like, I just forgot about it. I was like, let me just leave it alone, you know. I didn't think it would get to the point where he would stalk me like that. I really, really didn't. So I get up, my alarm goes off 4 a.m. The next morning. I go to shower, and as I'm walking to the bathroom, I'm creaking as I go, and I see our dining room floor was below. It was like one of those old Victorian houses, you know. So our dining room was below, and I was walking across the dining room. What's that thing called? Like, it's on the terrace. I don't know. I was just walking across it. I forgot the word for it. Balcony. I was walking across the balcony to get to the bathroom. So as I'm walking, I can hear creases, and obviously I don't want to talk. I wasn't too loud at that time because I don't want to wake up my roommates. And I look down, and I see a man on the floor, and I'm like, no, I've got to be dreaming. It's just because it just happened before I went to bed. I'm just like talking myself out of it, like it's not real. And I take another step, and as I crease, I woke him up. Like as the floor creased, I woke him up. Creaked, not creased. As I creaked, I woke him up, and he came running up the stairs, and I ran back into my room. I locked the door, and I called the police. And they're like, okay, we'll be there very soon. She says I should stay on the line with her until the police get there. So I can hear the police sirens coming as I'm talking to her on the phone. So she's like, okay, they've arrived now. You have to open the gate for them. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'll open the gate for them. I'm like counting 1, 2, 3. I run down the stairs, and as I get up there, he has his hands up. And as I get down, he has his hands up, and I'm standing behind him, and he's like, there she is, I just want to tell her that I love her. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so weird, I can't believe I'm experiencing this right now. I was just in complete shock. So I speak to the policeman, and they're like, stay where you are. And he said, if she tells me to leave, I'll leave. They're like, don't talk to him. He's like, no, you don't understand. I think I'm in love with her. I want to marry her. If she doesn't tell me to leave, I won't leave. So he was like, the policeman was like, well, she clearly doesn't want you to stick around, otherwise she would have called us, you know. So they arrest him. He surrenders. They arrest him, and obviously I didn't want to be a part of the problem. I feel like a lot of people are sent to prison for really, in the bigger scheme of things, I didn't feel like it was such a big deal, even though looking back now, I think it is a big deal. And I don't think we make as much of an issue as we should of people being stalked. But I think when a man stalks you as a woman, it's very different because, number one, he can overpower me. Number two, if he had gotten me alone, I don't know what he would have done to me. And that's a very scary thought. So I continue. I'm just remembering. So I'm like, the policeman's like, you don't have to put him in jail. We can just take him to another block and leave him alone. So I'm like, okay, fine. I was supposed to go teach yoga. So I'm like, I have to go to work. I have to go teach yoga in about 30 minutes. So I just want this out of my way. So I go teach yoga. Oh, excuse me. I'm missing out a big part of the story. So I go up to shower, come back down when I'm getting ready to leave, and he came back. So now I'm really freaking out. I go through the back gate instead of the front gate. I go through the back gate and I run to teach yoga. And I'm like, I'm going to deal with this when I come back. I'm going to deal with this when I come back. I'm going to do this when I come back. So I call the police because I had to teach 2 classes. I call the police in between the 2 classes that I'm teaching. And I tell them he's come back to my house. So they're like, okay, when you go back, we're going to come back with you. And I was like, I don't think that's necessary because My roommates will be awake by then. The landlord will be around so we can deal with it all together. So I go back home at about 1 p.m. and he's outside. He now has a bed. He has a tent. He has everything all set up outside of my gate. So I go to him and I'm like, what's going on with you? Why are you like this? He's like, you don't understand. Since I saw you, I've been following you and I really believe you're my wife. I'm like, of course he's not mentally all there, so I'm not going to really take his word as gospel. So I said to him, I'm about to call the police again. I really suggest that you leave. I tried to give you a chance to not come back, but you really insist on this. I'm going to have to call the police. So I go up to my room. At this point, I'm like way more calm and I know how to deal with it. Go up to my room. I call the police. They come in about 5 minutes. They come in about 5 minutes and they're like, okay, this time we do have to arrest him because he did trespass and so forth and so forth. So they arrest him, and when they're arresting him, they tase him down. It took 5 policemen to tase him down and to put him in handcuffs. So just imagine what would have happened if he had done anything to me, you know? So he goes to jail. I end up having to go to court to get a restraining order against him. And I find out a lot of information about him that is revealed as I'm doing, as I'm going through the court process. So the lawyer that they gave me, the state gave me a lawyer, and we go. I don't know why he didn't show. Oh, because of the TRO that I had against him, the temporary restraining order had against him. He wasn't allowed to come to court or something like that. I had to basically I had to give my witness statement before him, and then he would be sentenced after. But we weren't allowed to be in the same room at the same time. So I give my statement, they give me information about him, and they say they're going to come to a conclusion later on in the week. So I Google his name, and I find out that he actually wrote one of my favorite songs, which is so crazy to me. But he ended up on drugs, and he ended up just down a really bad path. So as the judge, I got sent a letter about what they excuse me, actually before that, the lawyer asked me what they wanted me to do. Would they have liked him to go to prison system, or would they like him to go to rehab? Would they like me to send him to rehab? And I said I prefer the latter, because he's not going to, in my opinion, I don't believe putting somebody in jail, all of that is going to really help him. So I recommended, and they promised me that I would have protection after he gets out. So I sent him to rehab, and I believe, because this is the timing of it, I don't really accurately remember, but I believe just before I was about to leave from LA to Miami, I got a letter. I know I got a letter because I read it, but I just can't remember the exact time. But I believe it was around the time I was about to move from LA to Miami, and they told me that he had been basically, he had completed his, I think it was I can't remember how long the treatment was, but he had completed his treatment and that he was out. They had to warn me in case he came back to my house. So that is a story that I had, and I think it was so weird that a guy that wrote one of my favorite songs would end up at my door stalking me, and I just think it's so strange. And basically what I got out of it was that a lot of people, when I told the story, were very desensitized, and that's what triggered actually me wanting to tell the stories, because I remember saying, briefly touching on it in another video that I did, but a lot of people were like, oh, I would tell people, yeah, I'm being stalked and I have to go through this process, because I had a lot of paperwork to do, and they'd be like, oh, well, it's because you're pretty. And I was like, that's an excuse? You know what I'm saying? Like, that allows people to treat me like that because of how I look. And I don't know, I just felt like a lot of the response I got was very nonchalant. So if you're being stalked, you have friends that has been stalked, or you know someone that's being stalked, I recommend really listening to them, because that was what I found a lot of people didn't do. And I wouldn't necessarily say victim blame me, but they'd be like, well, you attract a lot of stalkers, you need to look into that. And I'm like, I don't choose who stalks me. I'm not here walking around naked, you know what I'm saying? And even if I were, it's just so crazy to me that people had such a lack, in general, had such a lack of compassion about what I was going through. So I do have another stalker. I mean, I've had other stalker stories, but I'll tell you about some of them. Time, it was a very emotional time, and I wish I